I'm Jim Queter. I'm an executive consultant with AESG. Today I'm going to talk about several of the key issues facing the fire protection community. Some of those have been around for a while, but some of those are recently emerging as issues that we have to face as the community. I'll talk first about existing buildings. Adam Muggleton, in one of the other Future Focus programs, talked about the fact that existing buildings are really impacting sustainability, but they also impact fire protection. Most existing buildings, at least the older ones, are not sprinklered, yet people walk into buildings thinking that they're safe and that they're going to be taken care of when they're in the building. Yet people don't quite know what they're dealing with when they're in the building. Ideally, we would sprinkler all of our buildings, but that's an incredible political and expensive issue. And so we're going to have to face the fact that many of our existing buildings are not as safe as the new ones that we're building today. An issue that arose about 10 years ago, it's a recently arisen issue because materials have come along that allow facades to be lighter and more energy efficient. Unfortunately, some of those materials are foam plastic, and improperly treated, the foam plastic has a significant impact on the safety of the building. We've seen that in the Middle East, and we've seen that around the rest of the world as well. The worst that can happen is probably what happened at Grenfell in London, where many people died primarily because of a combustible facade. But replacing combustible facades is not an easy thing. It's not an inexpensive thing. So it is one of those things that we have to look at. What is the danger that that particular facade creates? And is that something that we can and should replace? Along the same lines, and along the sustainable lines that we talked about, there's new things that people are doing to buildings that we have to think about what the issues are. Green walls is an example. If we're putting a green wall on a building, either inside or outside, are we making it safe? What if we don't properly irrigate the wall? Have we suddenly created a fire hazard? What about green roofs? We're putting roofs on top of buildings with a bunch of sod and plants. And sometimes the fire resistance of roofs is based on its ability to insulate or to release heat to the outside. Once we put dirt on top of it, it can't release heat to the outside. Are we thinking about that as we build our roofs? We're putting solar panels on exterior walls and roofs. How do they impact the fire resistance of the building? And then we have double facades where we've created a chimney up the side of the building where if we have dealt with it improperly, we have created an opportunity for fire to spread up the side of the building. So there's a lot of issues around facades and sustainability, all of which are relatively new, but that we need to face and we need to deal with. Another topic is wildland fires. We've seen significant wildland fires in the last few years, partially because of climate change, but also partially because people are moving further and further into the areas, so the interface between wildland and urban is getting muddied. Those wildland fires, thinking about Australia, for example, or California, where a complete city was burnt down, or last year in Lahaina, Hawaii, where a complete old city was burnt to the ground, are issues that we really are not close to dealing with yet, but we need to be thinking about how to separate our wildland from our buildings and how to properly protect them. And then along the lines of something that we have not come to deal with yet, but we need to, is the idea of how to communicate with people when they're in buildings. There's two parts to that. One is sending proper voice messages to people so that they know how things work. Many new buildings have voice communication systems, but some just have alarm bells or gongs, and those don't tell you anything other than something's happening. How do we communicate better? How do we tell people where the fire is or where the incident is, and how do we tell them what to do? Pre-recorded voice messages don't always do that. Another possibility, though, is when you read about fires in the last few years, many times people found out more from their cell phone than they found out from the building and from the fire department. How can we use that technology to properly indicate to people what's going on and be able to communicate them first via their personal devices rather than rely on building features? And last, on a completely different note, I want to talk about batteries. We're seeing electric cars, we're seeing electric bikes, we're seeing electric tools. batteries are much more a part of our life than they used to be. And the law of unintended consequences means that those batteries are creating significant issues regarding fire protection. A lithium-ion battery, which most of these batteries are, is generally safe if built properly and if used properly. But if not built properly and not properly checked by a laboratory or not used properly, a damaged lithium-ion battery creates a significant fire which spreads very rapidly and is very severe. So how do we deal with that? We need to know, as a user, how we should be using batteries, how we should be charging them, how we avoid damage to them. As the fire protection community, we need to learn how to deal with where those batteries might be, how to protect them in the building, how to think about where electric cars might be and whether we need to protect them better, and a variety of other things that arise. Many, many buildings and houses have burnt down due to lithium-ion batteries starting a fire. So in conclusion, there are a lot of issues facing the fire protection community, a lot which we are causing by our new technologies. Again, the law of unintended consequences. We fix one problem, we may create another. And here is our chance as the fire protection community to react to that. What we can expect is we'll find solutions to these problems and new ones will arise.